Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our lunchtime live brought to you by Simtai Consulting. Today, we're going to be talking about an interesting topic. We're going to be talking about getting and maintaining buy-in for your transformation journey. With us today, we have Brandon Waugh, who is a manager for transformation services here at Simtai. Brandon, welcome and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Natasha. Thank you so much for having me. I am absolutely excited to be here.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, I'm going to take that energy and I'm going to use it as we continue our conversation. So let us start off with a nice, simple question, Brandon. So the
Sure.
topic is getting and maintaining buy-in for your transformation journey. But let's start with what is digital transformation? So if you could tell us a little bit about, what digital transformation is, and then we can start from there.
Sure. No problem. No problem. So, digital transformation is really the process of using technology to fundamentally change how businesses operate and how they actually deliver value to their customers. But
Ah,
interestingly, to be successful on any digital transformation journey, the approach must go beyond simply adopting new tools and technologies. It
mm,
has to go to the place of reimagining and reshaping business models and strategies to actually deliver greater or new value to its customers than any other process players, whether there be staff members or board members or anybody else within that process group.
so that's interesting. So, I think a lot of people when they hear digital transformation, it might occur for some people as simply, all right, well, we're going to automate a few processes. But what I
Yes,
actually heard is that it's a much more involved thing. It's a much more
yes,
involved process. And so
yes.
when we talk about a transformation journey, it really is much more than bringing in some new computers. It really is a journey, like a start and an end, and then there are parts in between, correct?
Correct. It has a lot more to do. It has a lot more to do with how it is that we introduce and manage the change throughout the entire organization.
Got you.
Yes, it will involve the use of technology, hence the term digital transformation. But
Right.
underpinning the use of tools and technology to make value even better for customers is some of the things that the industry probably has classified as soft skills, which for me are very technical skills in how we
Mm.
manage the resources and everything else that makes up the change and make the change effective.
Wow. Okay. So, Brandon, from the literature that I've seen and been
Mhm.
exposed to in the conversations that I've had about digital transformation, and even what you mentioned when you were describing what digital transformation is, the focus seems to be on, creating new value opportunities for companies or, disrupting norms, right?
Yes,
So if that's the focus, right? So we're going to be disrupting norms and we're creating new value opportunities for businesses. Why do you need to have buy-in as part of a successful transformation journey? Isn't it just about identifying the systems to be changed and just rolling ahead with that, or the new processes? How does buy-in play a role in this process?
okay. Great question, actually, Natasha. So, fundamental to the practice of digital transformation, as you mentioned, is the disruption of norms and
Mm,
practices of an entire value chain or even the entire organization. And if there is actually no real disruption to what it is that we currently do, then it is highly likely that the project or program that we are going through is not so much digital transformation, but more continuous improvement or process improvement, which ultimately involves making incremental change to a process over time. But in our human biology, it is so designed that whenever our environment or belief system or ways of working or ways of living is being altered and disrupted at its foundation, we get into survival mode as the natural self-defense mechanism.
right.
That we do let's also consider an organization as a living organism.
Okay.
And once we begin to disrupt the organization, once we begin to disrupt what we've considered to be stable, once we begin to disrupt the thing that we consider to be endurance, the organization itself gets into its own survival mode, its own defense mechanism. And so given stakeholder buy-in becomes even more important because change is inevitably uncomfortable. So there has to then be an emotional, an aspirational, a psychological commitment from all the key players to maintain the engagement and the optimal outcomes that we're trying to achieve in the state of uncomfortableness.
I don't think I've ever heard it quite explained like that, and it makes a lot of sense the way that you've broken it down. I think one of the important distinctions that I got from what you just said is the difference between incremental improvements and what constitutes a transformation exercise. So once you're stepping in the space of a full transformation exercise, a full digital transformation exercise, you're talking about this organizational disruption of norms, and that's creating this level of uncomfortableness, my paraphrasing. And so if it is that we're going on this journey, because we just established that digital transformation is not something that just kind of happens with just a few things occurring. Once we're going on this journey of disrupting the norms, right? Then buy-in from everybody, from key stakeholders, is important. Let me deep dive that a little bit there. So when we talk about getting buy-in, are you only focusing on buy-in from your top executives? I mean, when you discuss the concept of buy-in, like who exactly are you looking at from a buy-in process or a buy-in conversation?
Okay, excellent question again. So buy-in is actually from across the entire stakeholder group or the key stakeholders in the process. It's not just one level or one tier. It really has to be with all the stakeholders who are actively involved in making sure that this process or this value chain is effective. And so, for example, you may have execs who are very concerned and interested in how the money is being spent and the timing of the deliverable and the return on the investment and that kind of thing. So we have to, in getting the buy-in, we have to also tailor the conversation with each stakeholder group, not just at one level. It is very important that the communication goes across. And as the term suggests, and we've been hearing in several other conversations, communication is two ways. So if I am saying something and you don't understand, is communication effective? That's a question that we actually have to answer in the change process. Right. So when we talk about the execs in this space, they have a specific motivation that they have to answer, or we have to provide an answer for them. We also have staff who may be concerned about job security and possibly fundamentally answering the question, am I still valuable after we've gone through this change?
Yes.
And that's something that we have to communicate very well throughout this process. We may also have customers who will probably get some kind of anxiety around, am I going to be able to manage through the use of these new digital channels that the business is introducing to me? Do I have the right kind of competencies and capabilities to be able to get the kind of value that I used to get from the business, given the new tools that I have to interface with? And then, of course, there's also one stakeholder group that I believe is sometimes left for the very end. And that stakeholder group is actually our regulators. Our regulators are one of, I would say, a very important stakeholder group, because they're there to ensure for compliance, not to just arbitrary standards, but they're there to also ensure that we are maintaining value for our customers and to hold us to a certain, again, a certain standard.
Right.
And the truth is too, that technology moves, or the change of technology moves at a faster pace than the rate at which laws and regulations are able to change and adapt.
Mm.
And so it is the onus is on business, the people who are going through this journey, to include our regulators early so that we can walk them through or get them into a place of understanding what we're trying to achieve. So that when the regulations and the laws come out, that they also play in the favor of the new process that we're trying to do. And on top of that, also maybe there has to be, depending on the pace at which we want to run, we may have to ask for some kind of extension or something else to be able to facilitate the change that we want. The regulators play a very important role in this transformation journey.
So I just want to recap for those of you who might have joined a little bit late. So today on our lunchtime live session, we're talking about getting and maintaining buy-in for your transformation journey. And with us, we have Brandon Waugh, manager in our transformation services, manager transformation services here at Simtai Consulting. So we just had a conversation about, getting buy-in from the various stakeholders. And what Brandon just identified was, or certainly what I heard, were 4 groups. So you mentioned your executive group or your key decision makers. Yes. You mentioned staff. And what was interesting, so I kind of, if you had given me a test, Brandon, I would have just put those 2 down. And then I certainly would have lost marks because I would have left out the other 2. So the other 2 that you mentioned would be your external customers, and then you mentioned the forgotten group, which is the regulators. So that's very interesting. So we're talking about digital transformation. And this first piece now is around getting buy-in. So what you're saying is, step 1 when you're getting buy-in is to make sure that you are tailoring your messages. You've identified your stakeholders and that you're tailoring your messages to those respective stakeholder groups, because certainly the communication to your regulators, as you've identified, is probably going to be a little bit different to what you say to your staff. Because did I hear correct? Because their motivations are different, correct? So you have to make sure that you're tailoring your communication based on the motivation of your stakeholder groups, right?
Correct.
Right. So listen, everyone, if you don't have pen and paper and are taking notes, not to worry, a copy of the recording will be available, after we finish our broadcast. All right. So great. So we've defined, digital transformation. We've established that it's a journey. You've explained why buy-in is important. Then you've identified, who your key stakeholder groups are that you need to get buy-in from. I guess my next question to you, Brandon, is what happens if after you've gotten your buy-in, so you've spent all of this time and you have gotten the buy-in of your executives, you have gotten the buy-in of your your staff members, you have gotten the buy-in of your external customers, and then you have gotten the buy-in of your regulators. I think the other thing that we need to then look at is, like what happens next, or even before we get to the maintaining part of it. I think I have a secondary question around, will the transformation process be impacted, if buy-in is lost? And so I know that's a tricky question, and we're just going to give Brandon a few minutes while we just get something sorted on the back end from a technology perspective. But just to recap again, for those of you who are joining us at this moment. So my name is Natasha Levy. I'm the host, and we are having a lunchtime live session where we're talking really about digital transformation. And I know that that's a buzzword that we hear out there every day, and there are lots of companies out there who are really exploring the world of digital transformation. And one of the things that we look at from a digital transformation perspective is, what's the new state that we want to create? why are companies engaging in this digital transformation journey? And one of the things that we identified a little earlier is that companies who are looking for new value opportunities for businesses are the ones who are going to be exploring the role of digital transformation in their organizations. I think if we stopped and looked around, we probably, as consumers, have experienced companies, financial institutions, and other institutions that are embarking on their own digital transformation journey. So from a customer perspective, we have been on the receiving end of these new value opportunities that have been created. So Brandon, so my question again to you was, all right, great. So we spent time getting the buy-in from the respective stakeholders, okay?
Yes.
Why is maintaining buy-in important for the journey? Or said another way, if I've said yes, meaning like you got my buy-in in the first place, right? So I'm one of the stakeholder groups and you got my buy-in in the first place. Why is it important on this transformation journey to maintain the buy-in?
So, because change is uncomfortable quite often,
yes,
there are ways to, as a person, for us to be quick at adapting to the changes in our personal environment. But again, the organization itself is a living organism made up of several people with their own interactions with the company, which makes things a little harder. And when let's call it the tough times hit,
okay,
you have to get into a space of ensuring that the vision, the understanding, the will to move still exists. When we're going through that change, it is easy, again, as a self-defense mechanism, to throw ourselves back into the space of comfort, into the space where everything that I do is perfect, is well.
Right.
I am the star player at this. Then nothing is disrupting the way that I do my work. I am still very well, are doing very well. Sorry. When we get into that space now of things may not go how I want it to go, I may not look how I want to look. The environment may not be in the space or in the way that I want it to be. I need to make sure, or the business needs to make sure, that the change will still happen, that the change is still going to be successful. And so it's important that along the journey, we are continuously being reminded of the reason why we're doing it. If at any point in time that maintenance act changes, it may result in our transformation process being unsuccessful, and of course being ineffective.
So buying is really that important, Brandon?
It is absolutely that important. It is, and while thinking through or preparing for this conversation, I was really pondering the thought that a lot of the things that we're talking about so far in this conversation is not so much the technology or hard technical skills.
Yes.
As we can see, we've been talking a lot more on the softer technical skills, the things that require you to know a lot more about people, for you to know a lot more about how processes work, for you to understand how it is that we can walk an entire organization through from start to finish. And the reason why buying is this much important is a lot of the things that we do can make or break depending on how the change is received in the organization and is managed throughout the organization.
But, Brandon, when we were putting the topic together before, I don't think I quite grasped the importance of buy-in, because when you talk about digital transformation, it can occur for a lot of people as processes, systems, so as you mentioned, it sits in that space. But yes, what you're saying is that the human element or the human part of digital transformation should not be ignored.
Cannot be ignored.
That's
Cannot
a
be ignored.
vital so even though it's digital transformation and there's a human component, that's
Correct.
a key success factor in this transformation journey.
Correct. Remember the definition that we gave at the beginning was around reimagining and reshaping an organization. That requires you painting a vision for an entire group of people who have varying motivations and allowing them to see the vision and want to be a part of the vision. That requires us to be able to understand essentially the fundamental psychology of human beings. The things that says to me, am I still able to add value? Am I important? That becomes a very big part of how it is that the success of this is possible.
So I want to pick up on that. And so we're talking about digital transformation, but what I'm hearing coming out as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there is an overlay of a change management process happening in the mix as well.
Yes.
How would you see the interplay between a digital transformation journey or digital transformation process and a change management process?
So a digital transformation process or a digital transformation journey has within it embedded a change management process. Every single successful digital transformation project must have a good change management structure embedded into it. And this really is because the focus of change management is managing the people aspect of the change to minimize resistance and to maximize engagement, and of course ensure that the desired outcomes for the journey are achieved. If we decide to neglect the fundamental things of the people that are involved in the process, then it is highly likely that the project or the process may not go as well as we want it to.
Got you.
It's very likely that the things that we want to engage in will not be as successful as we want it to be.
Great. So you've established that there is a connection, and like a lot of what you've mentioned sounds like a very structured enterprise change management process. So based on your experience, how mature is this process usually across the clients that you have worked with?
So to be fair to our clients, especially once you're working with Simtai, for anything for digital transformation, we're not in the game of trying to rate the change process to see how well you are and point fingers and that kind of thing. What we're there to do for that entire process is to really ensure that the things required for the change are embedded in the process that we're doing. So to answer the question very clearly, I won't be able to point finger to say that company A is 10%, company B is 90%. I'll definitely say that once we do an engagement together, Simtai and any of our clients, we are there for the journey and we walk you through the change. We make sure that the things required, the capabilities that you need to build into the process, whether it is we need to help our execs to craft a vision, whether it is we need to help the project team as well as the execs to answer the question, what is in it for me? Am I still valuable for our customers? And even to answer the questions for our staff members. And even to answer the questions for our customers and our regulators, we are there to help to do that. And so, I won't be able to tell you or give you a rating scale for all our customers. What I can definitively say is that we are there to help you to manage this process properly.
Got you. So Brandon, we just have a few more minutes left in our lunchtime live. And just as a reminder, we're talking about getting and maintaining buy-in for your transformation journey with Brandon Waugh, Manager Transformation Services here at Simtai. So we've just got a few more minutes left. If you had any sort of, key takeaways or key recommendations around the maintaining aspect of it, like how do you maintain that buy-in? Because, when we spoke about getting buy-in, one of the thing that you said that resonated was, make sure that you're aware of the 4 stakeholder groups. Make sure that you are aware that this journey is going to impact the organization, and that means that you have to look at the people aspect of it, as well as whatever technology needs that you may have for this transformation process. As we close out, Brandon, if you could think of, or if you could share maybe one or two key things around maintaining that buy-in, what would you say? What would you leave us with? Make sure you do this. Don't forget that. Anything along those lines.
Sure, no problem. So, as the word maintenance or maintain suggests, it is continuous.
Continuous, okay.
It has to be continuous. So the first thing I would say is to looking at your entire digital transformation journey and understanding the change management process that must be embedded in it. One way of knowing or managing the things required in that change, right, is through seeing and understanding your execution velocity. And what that really means is, of course, once we begin this journey of disrupting norms and practices, it is inevitable that we will meet upon roadblocks or resistance. That's almost every time. The team's ability to maneuver through these difficulties and actually treat them as opportunities to be better and do better is a great indication that the mindset that we need for the change has started to be a part of who we are. And so the thing I want to get at in this is our ability to as a team, as a company, to help everyone on this change journey to see all of the inefficiencies, the difficulties, the things that's causing the resistance as opportunities for doing better. That kind of mindset, I believe, is the first thing that we need to focus on.
All right, so focus on that mindset, yes.
Yes. The second thing is understanding ownership, and ownership meaning having all stakeholder groups or seeing that all stakeholder groups have now owned this journey. When that has happened, you can almost guarantee success. As a matter of fact, if after ownership has happened and the project or the journey still fails, meaning the outcome does not happen as well as we wanted it to, it is quite likely that you can quickly take the same set of stakeholders on another change journey and almost guarantee success again. Because now we understand what is required in a lot more tangible fashion to get this thing to work. So the second thing is ownership. The third thing is maintaining the team's energy throughout the entire engagement. Again, we are going to meet up with difficulties, and that requires us to be agile and quickly adapt to the things that we needed to make sure that this process is successful. That being said, our ability to continuously be motivated, to see through to the end, to be able to hold on to that vision, that thing that says, I want to participate in this. I want to see this to the end. I want to be a part of it. Which is why a lot of the visions that we see today comes with the word or the phrase, I am, or we are. A lot of companies are crafting their vision in that fashion. And of course, underpinning all of this is trust. There is almost no transformation process that we can get into that does not have within, embedded at its foundation, trust. If we can get all stakeholders on the basis of trust throughout this journey, then almost assuredly we can go through this thing together and do it well.
Gotcha. So mindset, ownership, energy management, and trust. So those are some key pillars that we're leaving with everyone today in terms of maintaining, because you would have worked on getting the buy-in with your key stakeholder, your 4 key stakeholder groups. And this is now how you go about, or some suggestions in terms of how you go about maintaining the buy-in for your transformation journey. Brandon, unfortunately, we are out of time. I think we're going to probably have to schedule another transformation journey sometime in the future.
No problem.
So-
I'm looking forward to it.
I would like to thank you very much for sharing all of these gems, these important gems. And to those of you who are watching, I hope that you got some valuable information today. If you would like to find out more about the transformation services or any of the other services offered by Simtai Consulting, I'm going to encourage you to visit the website. So that's www.simtai.com. Where you can find out a little bit more from the blogs that are available, as well as the list of services, all of the fantastic things offered by Simtai Consulting. As we leave today, I believe there is a survey we are going to ask anyone who is watching, all of the people who are watching, to fill out as we go. The information should pop up on your screen at any moment now. But in the interim, I would like to thank you for sharing your lunch with us today. I hope that you had a great lunch. I am Natasha Levy, host for this Lunchtime Live. Look out, watch this space, because we have more great conversations coming up, brought to you by Simtai Consulting. So thank you very much, Brandon, and thank you very much for those of you who tuned in. A copy of the recording will be available. All right, everyone. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Bye, everyone.
Bye.